Hey guys, welcome to episode 9 of ATC. Nueves, crazy. How are you guys doing?
I'm a Spanish queen now.
You are. With
I'm almost done with my second Spanish class.
Oh, you had to take 2?
Yeah. Well, because I think, like, most people took it in high school.
Yep, right.
I didn't. So they were like, you have to get it done. And I waited to the last possible second to become a cultured queen. But
after Barcelona.
I know. The timing worked out horribly.
Or you would at least think that maybe Barcelona would have, like, given you the boost.
Yeah, no.
But it didn't.
I was struggling hardcore in Barcelona, let me tell you.
You came back to that Spanish class and you were like, vale, vale.
Yeah. No, I was a pro. I impressed everyone. No, but it was great because, like, at the beginning, they were like, oh, tell me, like, your experience with Spanish. I was like, I actually just spent, like, 10 days in Barcelona.
That's so cool.
And they were like, oh, okay. She knows her stuff.
Did you learn anything?
I was going to say, I definitely did not. I, like, made them... I really screwed myself because I, like, made them have their expectations.
You set
like,
the bar high.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, she went to Spain. She's... What? I was like, hola. That's all I know.
That's so funny.
But, yeah. So, anyhow. Nueve.
Well, I hope you guys are doing so good. I'm just going to jump right in.
Let's do it.
Into the deep end.
Dive right in.
Into our high and low tide.
What's that one song we used on, like, our first Against the Current post? You know what I'm talking about? That dive song?
Yeah. Dive from Social Club.
That's what plays in my head every time we initiate our high and low tide.
I'm going to end on my low tide because it's a doozy.
So we're going to start with our high tides?
I'm going to start with high.
The
so my high tide, and that this has all happened very last minute, but my high tide is that I'm about to go to a lightning game. Well, not an actual game,
a watch party.
But I'm going to go to the watch party. Yeah. The official watch party with Mia, which
is, like...
was so, like... crazy last minute.
Yeah, no, I talked about this in a previous episode, but, like, watch parties are, like, my peak.
Which is so funny because I was just listening to you talk about that, and then I saw the other day on Be Real, she had posted and she was there, and I was like, oh my gosh, is this the place that you were talking about in the podcast episode? And she was like, yes, and I was like, ugh. And then I got a text from our pastor, and he was like, hey, like, do you want to come to the watch party? And I was like, yeah, I don't have any plans, let's go. But then I got, like, no information. And I was like, okay, well, I need to talk to Mia because she knows the whole deal. Like, he didn't tell me that I was going to need a ticket. He didn't tell me any information that I needed to know what to bring. He didn't respond to me when I was asking about carpooling. So I reached out to Mia, and Mia was like, because you had brought up a ticket. And I was like, oh, I need a ticket? Like, where do I get one? How much do they cost? Like, what are we talking here? And then it ended up working out where she was like, I might be going with my family, but I'll double check. And then all of a sudden she texted me. She was like, we actually have an extra ticket and we can just go together. And I was like, God, that was God.
Lovely.
And such a big high tide. So I'm super, super excited because I've been to a lightning game at Amelie.
Yeah.
Once or twice.
It's definitely a different experience, though.
But I'm excited for the watch party.
Yes.
I haven't watched, like, I understand hockey. I really like watching hockey when I do, but for whatever reason, like, I just have never been consistent with it. I think football takes up, like, everything that I have.
Same.
Yeah. And it's like, I understand the game. I understand all of that. And it's so much fun to watch. I've just never kept up with the season. Right. But also, hockey is a long season.
It's 82 games.
It's a lot. And so I get, like, all of my... If you hear anything, it's my dog in the background. But all of my knowledge has to go to football because it's just my priority. And then, like, hockey's in the back for sure.
I'm literally the exact opposite. Like, hockey's, like, the forefront. And, like, I understand football.
But, like when it comes to NFL season, like, then you'll tag along with me. And hockey season will tag along with you. It does. So that's definitely my high tide because it was just crazy how last minute it all came together. And I'm really, really excited. I'm going to be going with good people.
And
so
let's make sure that... Lightning actually win a game. They're struggling, Hannah.
Are they?
Know what you're going into?
No, I don't.
They're down 3-0 in a 7-game series. So if they don't
this is
tonight,
like...
they're eliminated. So you joined at a perfect time.
Oh, I'm gonna see some rage. I like to see people get intense. It's either gonna be
like really good because people are gonna be like, oh, we're still alive, or everyone's gonna be depressed and the vibes are gonna be not good. So we'll see.
We're gonna win.
Find out.
And on Nombre de Jesus, we're gonna win.
Speak it into the world.
Who are we playing?
We're winning. Panthers.
Are they Panthers. Good? Well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they won our division.
Okay.
Yeah, we were... Where were we in our division? I think we were, like, 6th.
Okay.
So...
How many teams are in a division?
In a division... That's a great question. I know there's 32 teams total. And if do that math. I think.
How many divisions are there?
4.
Okay, then 8, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's 8.
Okay.
6.
Because football, there's way more divisions, but there's only 4 teams in each one.
Yeah, there's 8.
Yeah.
There's 4. Like Atlantic, football. Yeah.
Well, actually, there's only 8 divisions in football, too. Because there's AFC and NFC, North, South, East, West, North, South, East, West.
Yeah.
But there's 4 teams in each one.
Real. But yeah, we just slid into playoffs, honestly. It just we got lucky, so... The fact that we've gone to any watch parties is a blessing.
Amen. So anyway, that was my high tide. I'm super excited. What's your high tide?
Related to sports, my high tide is I just went to a Rays game this week.
Fun.
Which is kind of fun. And it was a free ticket, so that makes it that much better.
Yeah.
I was able to go with my cousin, so that was really, really lovely. Neither of us are really into baseball. She was actually way more into it than I was. I was expecting to go play with the Stingrays the entire time, but she was paying attention. I love listening to it was just little moments that make it a little more fun than just the watching them catch.
Well, that's why there's no way I could watch baseball on TV. I genuinely don't understand how people do that. Going to an actual game can be fun because there's other stuff to do in the environment.
To the songs. That was really
that's
fun
cool.
For me.
The environment is a good time and I can have fun, but only watching on TV. Ooh. Going to a Rays game, the experience, I guess, is fun, but I'm not a huge baseball person.
No, same. So, but it was fun. We were just kind of chilling. I got a pretzel, so
love pretzels.
That was a vibe. But yeah, no, that was a really good time. And it's been fun to have a little sporty week.
Love
to
that.
Rays games, at the watch parties, doing the whole thing. And I have this one specific Rays shirt that I can never wear unless I go to a Rays game because it's so overly loud Rays. It's I thrifted it. It's a button up, but it has their logo everywhere. Yeah. And I look like a crazy person if I wore it anywhere but to Tropicana Field. So getting to wear that, applaud the drip. So that was really lovely.
That's fun.
Yeah. But my low tide actually goes with this too.
Oh,
so
good.
If you mind, I'll say my low tide. No. So
I'll definitely do mine last. Yeah.
Okay. So my low tide. So yeah, we're having fun at this Rays game, and then we actually had pretty good seats. I'm not gonna lie. Row N, which is pretty close. It sounds kind of far, but we were pretty much right there. And the person, there was this person down in this down area, I guess you would say. He had this huge camera. He was the one doing the Jumbotron stuff. And I was like, I'm literally going on camera. I'm going to be famous. He's right in front of us.
Literally hold up the ATC logo.
No, I was about to do some sponsorship. I was going to go crazy. The whole time, I was literally trying to get his attention. I was every time there was a break, I was standing up, cheering, being that person. They had a flex cam. I was flexing my non-existent muscles. I was going crazy. And no, he didn't choose me at all. He literally went even close. He zoomed into a guy right behind me. Zoomed in. I didn't even get a corner. No, dude was actually he had beef with me. I don't know what it was. He literally zoomed into the guy behind me. That's how much he was avoiding me. And again, that I can understand. There's a lot of people there. If he doesn't want me to be on it, fine. No, but we're waiting for the 7th inning stretch. You know who I do see on the jumbo screen? My grandpa, who's in a completely other section. And I'm how the heck did he was just standing there clapping. Just doing his thing. How the heck did he get on the freaking cam thing? He probably didn't even care. He didn't even know he was on.
It's always the people not looking for it. I know. Ugh. Every time I feel like I'm having a moment, I'm oh yeah, they're gonna get me on camera, and then they're I'm gonna go to the person next to you.
I know.
You're not gonna get shown, and that person next to you isn't even paying attention.
That's what I'm saying. Most people on there are just on their phones. I'm literally putting on a show for you right now.
So annoying.
Anywho, but yeah, so that was kind of funny because I was crying all night that I didn't get on camera, and then I was just watching, and then my grandfather that's in a completely different section that couldn't give a crap, is just doing his thing, clapping, famous but. I have to be honest, I feel I can never complain about not getting on the Jumbotron because I had my whole famous moment I've talked about when me and my brother-in-law got on the kiss cam at a Lightning game.
Yes.
And not only was that an actual crazy, horrible moment, but the Lightning page posted it on their TikTok.
Oh, no, that's right. I remember.
And it got over 9 million views. So I feel I'm...
So why don't we have 9 million listeners?
No, honestly, I'm about to repost it on my own page. I've thought about that. That's how I'm going to get people's attention.
I agree.
And I was so boring the video too. It was literally my brother-in-law that actually got it viral, but I'm using that clout and running with it.
Of course.
But yeah, so I feel I can't really complain because I did have that amazing claim to fame moment. But I really wanted to get on camera. And it was just the salt and
knife to the heart.
Yeah, my grandpa got it and I didn't.
Wow.
Or the guy behind me got on and I didn't. He was actually avoiding me.
Sounds like they hate women.
So real. You hate fashionable woman with a raised, loud button-up shirt. I don't know.
Yeah, and you had the style and the drip. I can't
like,
believe they didn't put you on camera. That's wild.
I don't know, man. I was not thrilled, but it was a good time, nonetheless.
Well, are you ready for a real low tide?
Yeah. I was like, mine kind of went together, but I'm ready I haven't heard this yet. So.
I just want to start it out by saying that this has now happened to me twice. I believe in like at least the last month, maybe like the last like 2-3 weeks. Okay. Mm-hmm. I love my dog. I want to make that clear. He's laying right next to me like a good boy. Just wants to be near you. So sweet. We haven't had him for super long. We've had him since like, I want to say like February. So it's only been a couple months, like maybe like 3 months now or something. Mm-hmm. And he is from a shelter originally. He had an owner before that, but they only had him. Oh, big stretch. They only had him for like 3 weeks before they were like, we can't. Yeah. And it wasn't because of him. It was because like they basically, and this isn't even about my low tide, but he was in a shelter for a really long time. And the next day he was on the euthanasia list. And they were just kind of feeling impulsive. And they were like, let's go look at the dogs. And then they met him and they fell in love with him, saw he was going to get killed the next day. So they were like, well, we need to save him. But then they didn't really they were like, but we can't actually take care of him. Yeah. So they wanted to get him out of that situation and get him into a home. And that's how we got him. Anyway, because of the shelter background, I was doing research because I'm unfamiliar with that. And a lot of those dogs can struggle with potty training because they're used to just like, they don't really have a set schedule. You're in your little kennel. You go when you go. And it's been a struggle with Milo trying to get him potty trained. He's gotten a lot better about it, but we still have accidents every now and then. And we also have a Roomba vacuum. Love my Roomba. It was a wedding gift. It's awesome for like just daily getting the dog hair up off the ground kind of thing. And it's nice because you can set it on a schedule. So like every Sunday at 11 when we're at church, the Roomba goes and it cleans up that little front room. So that's what happened. And I came home after church to the worst smell of my life. And the dog had an accident, a number 2. And the Roomba went on its schedule and ran through it and spread it all over my house. Skid marks.
This is the second time that's happened?
It's happened twice.
Okay.
All over my house. Skid marks. The smell of death.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Dude, that's not the
didn't.
The diffuser didn't. My new aroma diffuser didn't cover that up. No, that's not the worst part though. The worst part is when you pick up the Roomba and it's in the wheels in every mechanism and every nook and cranny of the Roomba to the point where like I just want to throw it away, and like, but it's like a $600 vacuum. They're expensive. Can't do that. So I'm literally. No. Having to get like a scrubber over the sink, gagging to scrape it out. Have to basically like take this thing apart to totally clean it. And that's like before you even get to clean the actual floor. Okay, so that happened the first time and I was like, okay, like maybe I should take the Roomba off the schedule so that doesn't happen again. So then the second time it happened, it wasn't because of the schedule. I was home. And he still had an accident. I had already taken him out. He had an accident. Try not to get frustrated with him. And I had set the Roomba off while I was getting ready. And it happened again. And when I tell you both of these times it's happened when Vlad is on shift, every bad thing happens when Vlad's working. Because that's just the irony is just, it's just how it works. And I'm literally like, I had such a long day at work. I don't know. I wasn't getting ready then. I was doing something, but I had such a long day at work. All I wanted to do was just sit down for 15 minutes and like relax. And I have to clean this up, dig into the mechanisms again, get into all the wheels. And I'm crying over my sink because of how tired I am and having to do this. And Vlad was like, I'm so sorry. I'm going to buy you a massage. And I was like, please,
please. Actually, yes.
I need something. So that's my low tide.
That's a low tide.
That's a low tide. All over my house, dude.
Milo.
And he don't smell like roses.
No?
So we're a work in progress. But that's my low tide.
Dang, that happened this recent Sunday?
That happened like maybe a week ago, and then the first time it happened like 2 weeks before that.
Oh, nice. Consistency.
Yeah. Consistent, yeah. That he is. So
love that for him. Same spot. And like, he like plants it. It's in the front room too, so then it really gets in there.
Yeah, he only does it in that room.
Yeah.
So I obviously just need to like stop running the Roomba in that room if I'm not actively watching it. And him. So fun times for me. Yeah. Anyway, let's get into our manna. And
on that note,
tying that into what we're talking about for this episode, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah. I was going to say, you guys will already know by the title when you clicked on it. We are kind of talking about Enneagrams. We'll dive deeper into that later, obviously. Yeah. And all the actual meat, the juices of it.
Love the Enneagram.
But we did want to talk about the whole idea of just... I feel like we've talked about it in the past in a different manna segment, which obviously, like, we're all made uniquely, you know. We talked about kind of in the childhood embarrassing stories episode, like, that God actually likes us, you know? And just the fact that he did kind of build us all differently. So before we actually get in, I want to read the verse. It's Romans 12, 6 through 8. So it's a couple verses. But it says, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. And if it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully.
And I love that because it kind of shows like you're not going to have all of the gifts, right? We are given unique ones that match the unique personality that God has given us. Not everybody has the gift of teaching or serving or prophesying, right? And if you do, embrace it and use it for God. Like, you know, it comes from God. It should be for God. And that kind of just ties into our personalities as a whole and the people that God created us to be and how we can best use that for his glory. Right.
Yeah, and I think just when it comes to gifts in general, I love when, because Paul lists so many different ones, you know, because you can fall into like, oh, you might not even like think about your gifts because you see someone else that might be diligently using theirs or, you know, encouraging so well. And you're like, oh, I wish I had that. And then you're completely like not even.
I think we rank the gifts.
What you,
Some gifts are better than others when that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
They're just different. Like some people might think having the gift of exhortation, of encouragement, was like, well, that's not as big as prophesying. And I'm like, we need encouragers.
Right.
We need people to be able to lift one another up. Yeah. That makes or breaks people, you know. And so it's like, prophesying is amazing, and I would probably argue a more rare gift for sure, but that doesn't mean that you're a better Christian because you can prophesy and I can only encourage. Like, I feel like comparison is the thief of joy. When you do that to yourself, you're totally missing out on what God wants and has a plan specifically for you that matches that matches the personality and the person that he made you to be.
Right. Yeah. And it's I've definitely struggled with this, like, especially, like, just in the church, you know, there's so many different ways to serve, so many different ways to kind of just be a part of that body of Christ, and it can be so easy to be like, oh, I would rather have that gift. And then, again, that's when you're not actually... Or when you're like, you know, that you were given, you're using that to glorify God.
And you're worshiping, but you see someone speaking in tongues, and you're like, oh, well, they're a better Christian than I am, and I can't have that. Not everybody has that gift.
Yeah,
that's a gift to be able to speak in tongues, you know, and doing things like that. And it's like that doesn't make your worship any less valuable or wanted by God because you're not doing something that someone else has, or because the person next to you can sing really well when they're singing to the worship music. God doesn't care if you're tone deaf. Like, our praises are like a sweet aroma to him regardless, you know. And it doesn't matter what gifts you have or what you don't have. What matters is that whatever the gifts that you were given, using it for the glory of God. And I feel like when we embrace the gifts that God has given us that fit into our personality, because that's just how God designed us, we become our best selves. I think we truly like blossom into the best version of ourselves that God has intended us to be. Because just like there's the verses like right before that, I think, when we're like talking about the body of Christ, when all parts of the body are working together and the hands are doing what the hands are meant to do and the ears are doing what the ears are supposed to do, that's when the body works. When each part understands its job and does it well, not the ears going, well, you know, to the eyes, I don't need you.
Yep.
Or I wish I could see. I wish I could have the job of the eyes, but like you don't. You're the job of the ears.
Yeah.
You need everything, and not one is more important than the other in that sense. Rather that everybody understands their purpose and does it and executes it well, and focusing on yourself instead of comparing and constantly wishing that you had something, because that's when you get dysfunction and you're not going to work to the best of your ability. And so kind of viewing it like that, like as the body of Christ, when believers are, what's the word I'm thinking of? Embracing the gift that God has given them and using it to their full capacity for God, and everyone is doing that and it all looks differently, it's a cohesive unit.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to
have that diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love in this verse too where it doesn't say to like just kind of recognize what you may have more of like a strength towards, you know, but it's saying like find that and like actually do it, you know, like do it to the best of your ability, do it diligently, do it cheerfully, do it not in a way where you're just like, oh, I have this, whatever, whenever it comes up, but like actually seek out how to use that gift, seek out how to be the best servant, the best teacher, the best, you know,
and a part of that, which I think this is a really important aspect of it too, is that before you even get there, you have to find out what your gifts are.
Right.
And sometimes that means that you're going to go through a period of trial and error and a lot of failing.
Right.
Or like recognizing, oh, that might actually be a weakness, you know, with whatever that is, because sometimes you might not know what your gift is. And you are going to try and go into a lot of different facets in life, whether it's in church or the outside of the church, where you realize, wow, I'm really good at that. Or wow, I'm really not.
Yeah.
And, you know, and there is a time where like, I think this is important too. Even if your gift is not serving, I think we should all serve
100%. I
to
feel
a
like
degree.
You can have, I recently did like a small group training, and they called it like the geniuses. It was like this whole kind of concept. I don't remember all of it, but it had kind of skills on when it comes to like leadership, and they were helping you kind of like rank on like what your strengths are, but they didn't. And then the last thing, like category, we could like rank them, and it didn't say like things you weren't good at, but they were just like frustrations, just things that you may have to work a little harder at, you know. And I feel like that could work with gifts, you know, because you can help and assist in many different ways, but you may have to work a little harder, or
and
rely
there
on God
are
a little
ways
more for certain things.
And like, for example, serving or teaching or encouragement, that can look very different. I feel like there's a lot of different ways to do that. Like with serving, it could depend on what age group. Like maybe you're really good with kids, maybe you're not so good with kids, so maybe you should stick with adults, you know, but like you can still find whatever way suits you better. Or maybe your version of serving, I think of Vlad, he is a very hands-on laborer. Like his way of serving for the Lord is like putting his hands to work. Like you give him a job and a task to do, you give him manual labor, something that probably most people would rather not do. That is what he is all in for. Versus like for me, I would rather talk and connect with people one-on-one or work with kids. That's not Vlad's strong suit. Right. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, he is awesome in that capacity. I'm good in mine. However, I've also seen Vlad get up on a stage and dance for kids, even when he didn't want to, because we talked about this in one of our other episodes. Like, you're not always going to enjoy every single second of ministry. Sometimes it's sacrificial. And like for me, like I absolutely love manual labor? Like maybe not
the top of the list,
but do everything as if you're doing it for the Lord. Have a good attitude about it, and I'm gonna serve because I recognize what I'm doing it for. And it's the same thing with like encouragement. Like maybe if you're not a very good person with words, like maybe you're better at sending encouraging texts if it's not better face to face. And like you remember that, oh, this person has a really big test that day, let me send them a text of encouragement or whatever, like whatever works for you and your personality. But there are ways where even if a gift is not your strength, we can still find ways to do it, because there is that part that I think should be sacrificial. But on the parts that you do know that are your strengths, pour into that.
No, for sure.
And show up in that area.
Yeah, I think it's important, like you were saying, to not like almost make excuses, you know?
Yes.
Like we're like, oh, I don't do that.
Like I'm an encourager and that's all I'm going to do.
Exactly. Or like, oh, I can't encourage because I don't like talking to people or whatever. It's like actually finding ways to work with kind of who you're who you
or
are
the people that like leave notes.
Yeah.
Like for people like on their cards, like, you know, you can encourage people without ever even having to interact with them.
Like don't kind of just settle or limit yourself and how you can serve God and use those gifts because of what you may decide for yourself or what may.
That's really good.
And we'll definitely get into that more with this Enneagram thing because it's the whole concept of like don't limit yourself on based off of like what you're labeling your personality as or like what you're labeling your gifts as because there's always so much more to that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of I think wise to figure out what your strengths are so that you can,
getting to know yourself is always going to be beneficial. Getting to know yourself
even is your how weaknesses, which no one wants to do. But my mom always says, if you know your weakness, they're not a weakness. If you're aware of them,
Yeah. No, but it's so true. Yeah. Like getting to know yourself on what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are that is where you start growth. Right. Like that's where you start to grow because that is where you learn, okay, I'm not good at this. It might sting, but okay, now I know what I need to work on. How can I get better?
Right.
And when you find out what your strengths are, okay, this is where I can dive into this. I can pour into this. That's how you can find things that you're passionate about. And not only are you passionate about it, but you're good at it too. Right. So tying that all into the Enneagram, we should probably talk about what it is. That was a really good Mana segment, but because it all it flows really well into our main topic, being the Enneagram. So,
and if you guys don't know what that is,
yes,
Enneagram is pretty much a personality test that you can take online, and it gives you a type, a number.
Yeah. So there's 9 types. So you can either be a type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there are wings, which is kind of like you can have some similar qualities or traits from the type either a number above your type or type below. So for example, if you were a type 7, you could have a wing 8 or you could have a wing 6 or you could be a balanced 7 where you have a little bit of both. There are some 7s where they are specifically a 7 wing 6 or a 7 wing 8 or they can be balanced if they sense both.
Yeah.
Or some that might just strictly be a 7 and they don't feel anything from the 8 or the 6. So if you ever hear someone say, yeah, I'm a 2 wing 7, that's not a thing. That's not how it works. You can only have a wing 1 up or 1 below. So it all kind of ties in together. So if you're a type 1, you could have a wing 9 or a wing 2. And like Mia said, it's a personality test. And you can take it online, but it's also, the test is like the first part because you're answering these questions, you're going with your gut. However, it's also important to like do your own research into the basics of each type, specifically looking at what are the core fears of that type and what are the core desires of that type, and finding out, along with the information that the test gives you, which one do you recognize yourself in the most. Right? Because if a test tells you that you're a type 5, but you're looking at the core desires and and you don't relate to that at all, but you do more with the 4, and 4 was really also high up on the test, like you have a lot of those traits, and you're probably a type 4. Because sometimes I feel like when you take those kind of tests, depending on where you're at in your day and what's going on that day can change your answers. So you kind of have to go back to like the basics of it. What am I most afraid of? What do I most desire? And aligning that with the type that matches you best. And it's really, really fun. I love personality tests. Like the MBTI is another one that a lot of colleges actually have people take that. And there's so many different...
the letters where it's like ENFJ or something.
Yes. And I love that one as well. I do love the Enneagram. Anything that helps me get to know myself better, I really love. That kind of self-reflection is something I really, really enjoy. And the Enneagram is also just a lot of fun. So that is kind of what the Enneagram is, and you can find your Enneagram type. There's free tests online. If you type in Enneagram on Instagram, I mean, so many things are going to pop up where you can, different pages that post really cool informational stuff about the Enneagram, and some of them are like funny meme pages that you can relate to once you know what your type is. So now we talk about, because I've been on the Enneagram journey for a while. You're new to it.
I am. I really have to be honest, going this episode, I didn't know much. Like I knew what Enneagrams were.
Yeah.
When I first took the test, it was because like a friend told me to, and I remember literally just typing in my notes. I was like, I'm this type, I guess, like a question mark. Like I literally didn't do any more research for it. But it came up recently again. And guys, I'm actually having an Enneagram identity crisis.
She is, and in my head and my heart, I know what you are, but I don't know if you've come to that conclusion yet.
No, I don't know. So I struggle because I was like, when I first took it, it was like a resounding, I was a 9.
Yeah.
Like,
which I could see you being a peacemaker. That, it does not surprise me.
Right. So that was my 9. So, but then recently I was like, you know, I've changed so much just in the past recent years. So I was like, let me just retake it. And then, because, well, it especially came from you. You were like, no, you're a 4. You're like,
Okay, listen, the stuff that, which we'll get into what that means, being a 4, because that is types. What my type is. I am a type 4. But when you listen to Mia talk and knowing who she is, there are so many things I'm like, that is so 4 coded. Like, how are you not a 4? Like, are you sure? Like, when she was having some of the similar thoughts that I was, like, to anybody that already knows about the Enneagram, or to any 4s that are listening, or people that know about 4s, Mia would go around, she'd be like, no, like, that's mine. Like, I need to be unique, and I need to have that, and I don't like that they have the same thing, because, like, it needs to be mine and my own. And I'm like, oh, honey, you're a 4. Who just sit and talks about the fact that they want to be unique?
Except if
no other type does that. That's so 4 coded. So she was like telling me all these different things, and I was like, Mia, you need to retake the test. Because sometimes it's also a matter of like taking the test multiple times, or different tests, and seeing which number comes up the most frequently, because you totally can take a test. Again, this is, like I said, depending on the kind of day that you had, where you're at, where your mindset is, can change your answers. So whatever comes up most consistently. And then again, the more important part is researching on the types and which one you relate to the most. Yeah. And so I was sending her a bunch of stuff. I was like, you are a 4. Which I'm surprised that I love and hate that you're a 4. Because I'm a 4, and so in my head, I'm like, I need to be the only 4 ever. But I like, also love the fact that we're unique together. And like,
that's actually so funny. Like, goes against
I'm like, it's my thing, but also, like, I guess I'm happy for you.
Yeah, you can join. But yeah, so anywho, so after I was told that I was not a 9, I was like, okay, let me retake it. And then, guys, again, another number's coming in. My top, I took it twice. Yeah. And it was a number 1. Both times.
I don't see you as a 1.
And I don't know much about 1s. All I know is that I did not like what 1s were. Everything's so backhanded. Like, I'm going to read the first sentence when it says, like, about your type. It's like, 1s are defined by their belief that everything must be order, and then by their feeling that they must always be right.
Yes.
That does not sound like something I want to be. That sounds mean.
1s are very structured. They thrive on schedule. They're the people that are, like, very successful in school and have the color-coded binders, and everything needs to be perfectionist, very organized, those kind of things. I know some 1s, they can be, you know, kind of strict in a way, but we need those types of people, you know, right. But I don't see you as that at all.
Okay, real.
And not to hate on 1s. We love good 1s.
No.
For sure,
I'm just trying to figure out what I am. So, yeah, looking at my little pie chart, my 1 and 4 was the highest.
That's because you're a 4.
I'll show a hand real quick. My 4 was really high. No, you're
definitely a 4.
And then my 9. So those are the 3 that I would say.
So, so based on that, I would then say to go look at those core fear desires, the actual type and what that means, and which one you relate to most. And I feel like you would relate to 4 most because you are a 4. So to go based off of that, because Mia's still in this identity crisis, and for whatever reason, she's not accepting the fact that she's a 4. And I am a 4, known that I'm a 4 for a while. I am a balanced 4, so I definitely have some traits of a 5, and I definitely have some traits of a 3, because I do have some things. I always laugh with my friend with Maddie, because she always makes fun of me because she's like, you have to be unique, because I'm like, I'm such a different type of 4, you guys. I have so many qualities that like don't even line up with 4. Like, I am a number 10. I'm not even on the Enneagram scale because I'm so different and quirky.
Real.
Because I'm very competitive. That is not a typical 4 trait. I believe that comes from 3. I believe 3s are pretty competitive. And the part that I get from the 5 is 5s like to know everything about things that they're interested in, and I do that. Like, if I'm into something, I have to know everything about that topic. That definitely comes from the wing 5. Yeah. So definitely a balanced 4, but And fours are also known to be very artistic and creative. So for me, I see it with you with your fashion. You love fashion and expressing yourself in that way. For me, I love the arts, like Broadway, musical theater is definitely where I would see me, myself, which is where I don't relate to fours. It's like, I'm not a painter. I don't like drawing and those like actual creating. I don't feel like I'm a super creative person, but with makeup, I have always enjoyed being really creative with makeup. So Maddie would always be like, that was for a long time my creative outlet was through makeup when I had the time to do it. Yeah. So I guess it adds up. But just for all my listeners out there, because you're listening to 2 fours, because I know that you're a 4, the biggest fear of a 4 is to be seen as insignificant or defective. And I struggle with that. Like constantly feeling like I'm not good enough. I don't do that right. People don't see me right. You constantly, 4s feel misunderstood.
Like worried about like
all the time.
The perception.
Yes, people's perception and that people don't ever perceive me correctly. And that has actually happened to me in my life and it destroyed me. And constantly feeling like people don't know the real me. People don't see the real me. They misunderstand me. It's hard for people to truly know who I really am or to be seen as mundane, normal. You're just like everybody else makes me want to die. No, like
I think that's where my 4 comes in where I'm like, I just being seen as like an average Joe. Like, like I want to like, literally kill me. Like the thought of that makes me like cringe, physically cringe. And our biggest desire is to create significance or meaning from experiences, to be understood, to be unique and different. I have always felt that way. Like, and I noticed that even like when I was younger, like if someone had the same color as something as me, I'd be like, that's mine. Like I'd like might start twitching. I'm like, that's mine. And it's funny because I'm not a gatekeeper, which you would think that maybe I would be, but it's like I like to tell people about things because then I want to, oh, I've never heard of that, or oh, that's so different. And I'm like, yeah. Like, okay, for example, this is a really good example. I listen to 116, Christian hip hop, like Lecrae, Andy, KB, Holvey, Trip, Tadashi, all those people in 116. And I was the only person in my high school that listened to them, and I loved it. That was my thing. But like specifically Lecrae and Andy Mineo, they've gotten kind of big. Like Lecrae's won a Grammy, that whole thing. And I love it, but I hate it. Yeah. Because I'm like, no more people are listening to them and knowing who they are, and that was my thing. Like I was listening to these artists that no one had heard of, that people made fun of me for. I was so different, I was so quirky and unique, and now people are listening to them, and it makes me feel anger. I struggle with that too, because then like if they start listening to it and then they're like,
they take it.
Then they act like they know everything, and you're like, you don't know them like I do.
Yes.
You don't know them like I know them. You're a fake fan. So
actually, they become a bigger fan than you are. Like air quotes. I'm like, know your place. Yeah.
No, honestly, I think that's what frustrates me the most. Like, don't act like you've been a fan this whole time. I knew that before they were big. I do that all the time with like TikTok songs and stuff. Like, I was listening to that song way back when. Like I want everyone to know that I am not like those people.
The bandwagons.
Yes. I'm not a bandwagon.
Yes. And I
get that tattooed.
It was the same thing when I was in high school. I was the only person in my high school going to SCU. And when like we had like the senior breakfast, and like they would call out your name and tell what college you're going to. And when it would say the college, it would list all the people that were going to that college. Like FSU, UF had a bunch of names. UCF had a bunch of names. At SCU, there was only one, and it was Hannah. And I was like, yes, it's me. I'm the only one going to this college, and none of you else are, because I'm different and I'm unique. Like, it's bad. I love it. It's bad.
No, I really feel that though. It's really just been ingrained in me since I was a child. Like you were saying, like if someone had the same shoes as me, I'm
now another huge battling part of Enneagram, which I do feel like this is very accurate, at least it is for me. There's also a type that you kind of take on when you are in stress. And there is a type that you take on when you are healthy and in growth. Yes. So every type, when it's kind of like your healthiest version of yourself versus the toxic version of yourself.
I think one is the toxic version of myself.
So I'm
discovering myself right now through this episode.
For Enneagram 4, when we are stressed, we take on traits of an unhealthy type 2. Which means that we can become overly involved, insert ourselves where it's not needed. And when we are in growth, we can actually take on positive qualities of a type 1, where we are structured, we are principled, we are organized.
Okay.
So, and I mean, there's more to that. That's like very, very basic, but it's like, I believe type 2s, which they're known as like the caregivers, they're very nurturing. They love to give to people. When they get unhealthy, they can take on qualities of a type 8. So they can get very abrasive, very competitive, where they start doing nice things because they want to get the recognition for those things, that kind of thing. And when 2s are healthy, they take on healthy qualities of a type 4. I'm almost positive that's correct, where they become more in tune to their emotions and more creative and like all these kind of things. So every type, you have your wings, and then you have the type that you take on the negative traits of when you are stressed, and the positive traits on when you are in growth, when you are healthy.
No, that makes a lot of sense too. Yeah. Instead of just figuring out your whatever. I pulled up all of them because I was like, actually, I feel like I need to redo all my entire personality thing, because reading the 1, I think I grew up, it's literally like the name of it is the strict perfectionist. Like that was very like my personality, type A, like didn't want to do anything wrong, wanted there to be structure. Like I loved the strict teachers. Like I loved when like everyone like had to follow rules. Like I did not like chaos. But I feel like that was a very not good version of myself, because then if anything was out of order, like I crumbled. Like that was like
apart.
Ugh, yeah. So I feel like I do have 1 tendencies, but that may be like you're saying, like the toxic. Maybe I have the toxic versions of 1.
Well, you would have toxic versions of 2 if you're a 4. You would have positive. Oh,
does it go?
Yeah. So when you are healthy, you would take on positive things of 1, which could explain why you enjoy organization and things of that nature. Okay. When you're in a healthy...
Maybe I misunderstood. I'm following. Right.
Growth place. Also, I pulled this up. For Enneagram 4s, which I apologize, guys. I'm only talking about 4s because that's really all I know, because that's what I am, and that's what I'm almost positive Mia is. But 4s at their best are attentive to others, confident with their uniqueness, and share a depth of emotional connection with others. 4s are also very known of being very emotional, very emotionally intelligent. You're constantly sitting and you're very like emotional, like the artists are like, oh, I'm like suffering for my art kind of thing. At our worst, 4s are focused on their own issues, envious, which is at me, and self-sabotage their relationships and career. The envy is what gets me. 4s are known to struggle with envy, and that is one of my biggest crux in life is comparison, which is the thief of joy, and constantly wanting what other people have, which we literally just talked about in our mana of not comparing the gifts that God has given you, and all these things. And so it's the second half of why we wanted to talk about this and understanding the Enneagram is to also talk about the proper ways to use it and understanding its purpose. Because I think with any personality test, anything like that, people can take it too far or they can use it wrong. Yeah. So the best way we were talking about before we got started was I like to view the Enneagram as a supplement. Okay, because of course everything I have to say has to be like gym related or nutrition related. So a supplement is like anything, like think of like your vitamins, okay? You don't need to take vitamins every day. You should. You don't need to. It is a supplement to your diet. Now, if you are relying strictly on vitamins to give you vitamins that your body needs, like that's not healthy. You should already be getting a lot of the vitamins and minerals or whatever that your body needs from the food that you're eating, from the foundation of what your diet is. And then the vitamins is a little boost. It's a little extra to help get you there. Okay. To help maybe push you over the line of success, not to be the sole place of where you think you're going to get success from. And it's the same thing, like people talk about supplements when it comes to the gym or nutrition. You cannot expect your supplements to replace your foundation of training and nutrition. Okay, no supplement is going to replace the gym. No supplement is going to replace your overall diet of how you should be eating. And it, even with protein is there are basically 3 supplements that are the most science-based, because there's a lot of them out there that people try to sell, but protein, creatine, and caffeine. Those are 3 supplements that most people, if you're a gym person, take every single day. Those are the only ones that have a ton of significant research behind it to show that they work. Mm-hmm. So with protein, for example, your body needs protein, but you should not only be getting your protein from a shake.
Yeah.
Like, the foundation of where you should be getting your protein is from whole foods, from meat, from what you're actually eating in your meals, right? And then take a protein shake to really get you the extra, last 20 grams of protein that you need. But the other 130 grams of protein, should be coming from food, not just from a powder.
Yeah.
Right? So I view the Enneagram very similarly, where we do not take on or put our entire identity and who we are in the Enneagram. It's a supplement.
Right.
Our identity comes from Christ. Our identity comes from who God says that we are. The Enneagram is a supplemental tool to help better understand who God has made you to be and how you can use that to your advantage, and also understanding, okay, what are maybe my more sinful tendencies? Because everybody is more different. Like it said with 4, envy. I struggle with envy. And I struggled with envy way before I knew that I was an Enneagram 4. Right? It just goes to show that it can be pretty accurate. However, I don't like, oh, I'm an Enneagram 4 and that's why I do this and it's never going to change. Yeah. Like, no.
Yeah.
It's just a supplemental tool to give you insight, a better insight as to who you are and maybe what you are more likely to be good at and maybe what you're more likely to suffer with.
Right.
But it's not going to be perfectly rounded to each and every unique individual.
Like you are an 8 and nothing else. Yeah.
Right. Because even like for me, I said I have tendencies that don't fit in the box of a 4. Just like I'm sure everybody has some different things about themselves that don't perfectly fit into it. And that's okay, because it's not where your entire identity comes from. It comes from God. And then this is a supplemental tool.
Just to kind of figure yourself out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I'm always down again for that deep self-reflection and getting to really know yourself. Because again, like I've learned a lot through the Enneagram, like sometimes it helps, like things that you already know about yourself, but it helps put it in words. Like, oh, I do desire to be unique.
Yeah.
And, you know what? I do have a tendency to do that, but I could look at that and be like, oh, well, I'm a 4, so I'm always going to struggle with envy and that's never going to change. Like, that's not a personality trait, babe. Like, that's, there's an issue, right? And that can be dealt with and that can be fixed.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a lot of inner self-work to do it. And maybe my natural instinct, my natural selfish human sinful nature, my flesh does have an issue with comparison and does have an issue with envy. But it's not something where you can be like, oh, well, I'm a type 4, so what can I say? That's just who I am.
No, for sure. And I think, we were literally talking about it. Like, if you are in that, like, if you have, like, you label yourself as a 4 and you find, like, your weaknesses instead of defining them as yourself, like, those are things that you have to work on, like, once you're aware of them, that just gives you a reason, like, oh, now that I know, because you can't fix a problem you're not aware of, sort of thing. So it almost helps in that way too, where you can kind of be like, oh, it brings to light, like, oh, you know what, I do struggle with envy, I do struggle with whatever the heck the other weaknesses are. Then how can I do that? Or even, like, how can my strengths and different numbers, types, my wings or whatever also help? I feel like it just definitely is a good little guideline, just like a little ruler for life. It measures what's already there, sort of thing.
It does. That's a good way to put it. It measures what's already there. That's, been ordained and created by God. It is not the foundation of who you are. It is a supplemental tool to dive deeper into who God has already made you to be, and can maybe give you insight of like, hey, like, because you're a 4, these might be some jobs that you might really thrive in.
That is true, because you can't, it's hard to think of yourself almost, like,
it is
that self-reflection, because then again, I've always struggled where I don't want to, like, talk too highly of myself, like, I don't want to say I'm good at this and this, but I also don't want to, like, beat myself down, where it's like almost just coming from, like, an outside perspective, like, oh, you just took the test, did your thing, this is what I think, like, an unbiased random computer somewhere, like, just, and
it's good to be like, this is probably something that you are going to struggle with, things that you need to work on. I just don't like to see it when people, like, take it on as everything, their identity, because I don't think that's a healthy place to come from,
right?
Because I don't believe that that's what it's designed for,
right?
Again, I believe it's designed as that supplemental tool, and you need to figure out where your foundation comes from, which The foundation of who you are is in God, is in Christ, is what Scripture says about us. Yeah. And the Enneagram needs to be able to supplement that.
Yeah, that's good.
Not the other way around.
Yeah. No, definitely. I do kind of want to read just like the titles of all the numbers.
Yeah.
So then listeners, they can do a quick, obviously make your own Enneagram test, but just
also wait, which one are you reading? Because then I could also read from what I had pulled up.
Enneagram9.com.
Okay. So then after you do that for each type, I can also read from my post of at their best and at their worst.
Perfect. Just so then they can do just a quick little self-reflection
before you do your podcast test. Enneagram test.
Oh, I love.
See which one you relate to most.
HEC Enneagram test.
All right, we're going to start with Enneagram type 1.
All right, that is the strict perfectionist.
So at their best, type 1s are appreciative, supportive, responsible, and they work hard to make the world a better place.
Okay.
Love some type 1s. At their worst, they can be nitpicky. They can be stubborn, critical, and have unrealistic expectations of others. So, yep. So maybe they also desire to be known and seen as a person of integrity and balance.
Dang.
Type 2s.
Someone may have been called out
Which
there.
also, if you didn't know, type 2 is the most common, and we love type 2s.
Really?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Like type 2 is the considerate helper.
The helper.
So I love that being common.
Yes, we love our considerate helpers. They desire to be loved and wanted.
Yeah.
At their best, they are generous, they are playful, they are attentive, they are nurturing without expecting anything in return. At their worst, they can be insincere, manipulative, possessive, and needy in hopes of controlling their relationships. Can get very toxic. Yeah. Because again, a 2 at their best can be, I just want to give and I want to love on other people. Yeah. I want to be loved and seen as well. But when you're not a healthy 2, you can be like, well, I'm going to do this so that they love me more. Yeah. Because you want to be loved and seen, so you start doing things from an unhealthy place to get that love. Yeah.
Yeah. Real.
Type 3.
The competitive achiever.
The competitive achiever. This is where I think that competitiveness comes in for me, is that wing 3. They desire to feel valuable and worthwhile. I relate to that. At their best, they are efficient while connected. They derive joy from motivating others, and they take failure as a learning opportunity.
Okay, love that.
At their worst, they are impatient and isolated, self-absorbed in personal success, and dishonest with themselves and others. I relate to a lot of that with 3. I definitely got a strong wing 3. Yeah. For sure.
That's real. Then obviously the next one we talked about, the intense creative, number 4.
They're also called the individualist. Because we crave so hard to be an individual.
That's funny.
Yeah, I already kind of read through their desires, but they desire to find themselves and their unique significance to the world around them. And I already talked about the at their best and at their worst, so we'll just skip right ahead.
Yeah. Enneagram 5, the quiet specialists.
So they desire to be capable and competent in all subjects that they find interesting. Okay. Again, I relate to that. Like when I got into CrossFit, I did a deep dive into CrossFit. When I started getting into nutrition, deep dive into nutrition and taught myself a lot. So I definitely have that wing as well. At their best, type 5s are generous with knowledge, time, and energy. They are perceptive, and they engage on an emotional level. At their worst, they are constantly on guard. They are suspicious of others, and they withdraw from those closest to them. So they have trouble trusting.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be like, again, like you almost turn into opposite because they desire all that knowledge. So it's like they need to know everything. They can't just trust on faith alone.
Yeah. Like they have to have all that info.
The info.
Right. Enneagram 6 is the loyal skeptic.
So they desire to have support and guidance from people that they know and trust. At their best, they are loyal, supportive, and reliable. They are committed to their family and friends, and they work hard to meet the needs of those around them. At their worst, they operate in fear, trying to control the possible present and future scenarios. Don't we all do that sometimes?
Yeah.
They respond with sarcasm when feeling threatened.
That's funny. what a oh my gosh.
And they are inflexible with others.
Wow. I don't think I've ever read about that one. That one's interesting. The next one was my lowest. It was number 7. So the enthusiastic visionary.
The 7s are, if you don't know, 7s are like your golden retriever people. 7s just want to have a good time. They are here for the vibes and the flow. Right. They are not They would be like a one's worst enemy. Like
Yeah.
they don't care about structure, having an itinerary. They're just like very spontaneous. Let's just have fun. Let's live in the moment. I don't want to think about the future.
Yeah.
Let's just have a good time.
Acting on like impulse. Yeah.
Yes. So Enneagram 7's desire to be satisfied, content, and to have all of their needs fulfilled. At their best, they invite others to experience new adventures and activities. They are focused and they offer lighthearted care to others. At their worst, they are self-absorbed, non-committal. They're flaky. And they allow distractions to keep from finishing important tasks.
Dang.
Maybe you just have ADHD.
Maybe 7 just all have ADHD. That's funny. And then number 8, we were talking about a little bit, the active controller.
So 8s are funny. I have some 8s in my life. Now, I love my 8s. We need 8s. But a toxic 8 is tough. Like, to give an example, Hitler
That's
was
crazy.
an 8. Like, your 8s are like the political leaders, the dictators. Like,
Okay.
they are the type
their
A
worst.
personality. At their worst.
So at their worst, you're
the
Hitler.
type A. That's crazy. It's so no, because so one of my friends, she is an 8. She's trying to be she's in law school, right? She wanted to be a lawyer. She's
that.
very argumentative, like she loves debate, and she did debate for a long time. Obviously she's going into, I just dropped my phone, going into law school, so it makes sense, right? But they're also like very opinionated. They're all for confrontation. They don't care.
Yeah,
and like facts over feelings kind of thing, right? But it's always so funny because like some of the meme pages, again, it's like the famous people in history, all the people that are 8s are like terrible people,
Evil
dictators,
people.
evil. All the type 4s, Jesus, Gandhi, like all these. Buddha, any
Jesus?
religious person was a 4,
funny.
and any dictator, evil person was an 8, and we just laugh about it. It's funny.
That's crazy.
But an 8, we need them. We need healthy 8s in our society. So desires to protect themselves and those they love from risk of betrayal. At their best, they are honest and committed. They are passionately supportive of causes they hold dear. So they're the activists, okay? Like they're going into the deep world of politics because they want to make a change.
Make a difference,
They don't like injustice, those kinds of things. They lead and they take charge while inviting others into the process. They are the leaders, and we need those people. We just need you to be healthy. That goes for any type. Like, we need 4s and the creatives, but like we need you to be healthy. We need our caregivers and our nurturers, but we need you to be healthy. At their worst, they shut down, they are withdrawn, they are demanding and controlling of people and situations, and they polarize projects, conversations, or situations.
Real.
And then finally,
Yeah, what I thought I was.
the peacemakers.
The adaptive peacemaker.
The
That's like
Enneagram
9.
9, they have a
Yes.
desire to have inner stability and peace of mind. At their best, they are peacemaking. They are reassuring and accepting while also expressing their personal opinion. And they invite others to relax, have a good time. Everything's okay, guys. Let's just all be friends. Let's just hold hands and sing around the fire. At their worst, it's so, interesting. At their best, they are peacemakers. At their worst, they're peacekeepers. So sometimes where you're trying to keep the peace when maybe you need to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Like
You're
avoiding
hurting yourself,
you're avoiding the confrontation. So like
Yeah.
you keep trying to keep the peace, but like, no, this conversation needs to be had. Isn't it interesting? Peacemaking at their best, peacekeeping at their worst. Wow, that's powerful. I feel like that's a message. They are passive aggressive or overly accommodating to keep the peace.
Yep.
They're overly accommodating, or they're getting passive aggressive. They don't want to do the confrontation, so they're just going to lay out little digs. Parks and Rec Ben,
Yep.
where he literally talked about how his family were so passive aggressive. That's the only way he communicates.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know how to just have like that upfront conversation.
Yeah.
And they are stubborn when they decide they want their way. Interesting. So now the more you know. Think about it. Do some research and let us know what type you are.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Let's put up a poll or something when this comes out.
That'd be a lot of polls. Or just a response, like what type, what Enneagram type are you?
they just tell us.
And we could do like, we could put like a little graph together of our listeners and how many of what type our listeners are.
Oh my gosh,
That'd be so much fun.
Watch, we have all 4s.
That would make me, I would be angry. Be like, first of all, guys, retake it because you're not.
We're the only
You just want to be unique. 4s are actually the rarest type.
Woo!
So you know what's so funny and something
cute.
that I love about myself and that I'll tell people? So I'm Enneagram 4, which is the rarest type, but I'm also the rarest MBTI, which is an INFJ.
Okay.
So I'm like double whammy. You guys are not like me.
You can't touch. Where hand is that? That's funny.
Four-coded. Anyway.
Four-coded.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this Enneagram-esque episode.
Yeah.
I had fun.
Well, I learned more about myself. Hopefully you learned a little more about yourself.
And use it as a supplement to live your best life.
Not your identity. It's
for the glory of God. Amen.
Add some ASMR at the end.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye, guys.